Did you know that only a tiny fraction of the population can actually bench 3 plates? That's 315 pounds or 140 kilos. So can the average guy actually pull this off? And why is this such a rare occurrence? Let's find out. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Vas here, and today we're actually going to discuss why is it such a rare occurrence for somebody to actually bench 3 plates, and why you almost never see it in a gym, especially from average people who are not powerlifters, bodybuilders, or elite athletes. And that leads me to my first point. There is a misconception that only these kind of people can actually bench 3 plates, and that's not actually true. Genetics and body type actually play a massive role on this. So the bigger you are, the more likely you are to actually move that kind of weight. And while those things do play a major role, the biggest barriers in my experience that I have actually seen is consistency, how often people go into the gym and for how long consistently. The mindset that this is a lot of weight and it can't easily be moved or it shouldn't be moved by the average person. And the other thing that we're going to talk about is actually proper training and having a training which is actually focused around lifting that kind of weight. Additionally, I will say that lifting this kind of weight isn't just about brute strength. You're not really going to pull something like that off just by brute forcing your way through it. It's about building a solid foundation of muscle, refining your technique, which is actually very, very important if you are going to attempt such lifts. And following a structured program will actually help you achieve this even faster, although it's not actually necessary, and we are going to get into that. So let's actually dive into those factors and explain why you're potentially not seeing the results that you want. So the very first thing that I talk about on my ebook as well is training consistency. When it comes to this lift specifically, it's not just about hitting the gym hard for a few weeks. This is not going to work. It's not something that you can pull off by going to the gym twice a week, every now and again, skipping a week here, not going to the gym for a month. This is not going to happen. It's about progressively overloading your muscles, progressively adding more weight to the bar. This is going to take months and months and months, or even years, and most likely it is going to take years. Focused programs like a 5x5 or a powerlifting focused program is going to get you these results a lot quicker, but again, it's not necessary. The other thing that we need to address is actually proper technique. There is no way you can actually bench 3 plates without having some technique and an understanding of what good technique actually looks like. When it comes to technique, you actually have to kind of like retract your scapula. You have to be on a very, very stable position, especially your legs. They have to be pinned to the ground. The bench must not be slippery. There's a couple of things that we can talk about, but from my experience and where I come from, it's not just about telling you what you need to do, because if I could use magic words that would make you lift the weight, then lifting wouldn't even be important in the first place. So what you have to keep in mind is that as a lift such as this, to refine the technique so much, it will require years and years and years of actually doing the exercise. Unfortunately, there are no shortcuts here. This is something that you're going to have to kind of like get used to, get under the bar, overload it progressively and see how you're actually doing with it. There is no words that I could say. Even if you have a coach on top of your head and telling you what to fix and when to fix it, it's still not going to be enough. It's still going to take a lot of time for you to actually build that motor unit, recruitment, and your brain telling your body what to do and actually pushing that sort of weight, and also building that muscle, that foundation, that big muscle which is actually going to move that weight. All that is going to play a massive role, and all that actually takes a lot of time to build, unfortunately. We briefly touched on it, but a physical fitness level actually matters here. And what I mean by that is somebody with a larger frame like myself will actually be able to do this a bit faster than other people. The starting point actually matters here. It's not everything. I've seen relatively small people lifting a ridiculous weight. And this is something that, you build over time, but somebody's going to have a starting point which is actually far, far ahead of yours. And that really depends on your frame, like how big your back is, what's your leverages like, tricep leverages, front delt leverages, and obviously pec leverages. There's a couple of things that goes into that. And obviously the other thing is how heavy you are. It plays a role. But the question is, do you actually have to have a powerlifting program to do this? Do you have to do 5x5s, or can you just go to the gym, show up consistently, and eventually actually hitting that? Well, yes, you can. And I'll tell you how I know, because I did it. So it's one of these things where I never actually trained for it. I only had two dumbbells when I began. It was during COVID, during the lockdown. So I only had access to two dumbbells and a bench. So not a lot to actually get you there. But what that did is it made me fall in love with the sport of bodybuilding and actually getting size on me. And that was my goal ever since. I have never, ever, ever actually trained for strength specifically. Up to this day, I've never done it. I've never spent a single workout training specifically for strength. I've done sets here and there, but that's not training for strength. It actually requires a lot of focus and a lot of time and a lot of consistency. That we'll have to go into that. I first lifted 3 plates in about 5 or 6 years into training. And for me, again, it just kind of like happened. So one day I was just lifting and I was like, okay, this feels good. And then I went up in weight. I went up in weight again. And all of a sudden I was like 135 for two and they felt easy. So I was like, okay, I have to try 140 kilos now, right? I have to try 3 plates because I think I can do it. And then here's what happened. 1, 2.
Above? Good. Let's go. Oh, easy.
One more.
Go. Yes.
Ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3.
You above? Up we go. Up we go.
Oh, you know. Oh, easy, wasn't it? Thanks, mate. So as you can see, that was actually very, very easy. And this breakthrough didn't come from training specifically for lifting that kind of weight. It came by just getting into the gym, getting that mind-muscle connection, obviously getting on size. This is something that you can't actually get around it. You have to get the size. And it's not just the pecs, it's actually a variety of muscles that actually support that movement. So obviously you have the pecs. This is the primary muscle, the muscle that will do most of the work. Then you have the front delts, and then you have the triceps. But it doesn't actually stop there. Bigger biceps will help. And here's the secret to an actual big bench, and that's a big back. So if you have a big back, what that does, it allows you to really, have that foundation on the bench. So the more surface you have, the more you can actually position yourself and pin yourself down so it doesn't actually move, and that means stability. So if you are stable, you're actually able to really produce a lot of force that way. So a big back is actually one of the secrets to lifting very, very heavy on the bench. But that was kind of like how it happened for me. I never trained for it specifically. It just happened. So can the average guy actually do it? Well, yes. Yes. Is it rare? Absolutely, guys. In 6 years of training, I have actually never seen anybody do that in a gym. Ever. I've obviously seen people on social media and competitions, obviously. Like, you would expect that to happen there. But in a public gym, I've never seen anyone put that kind of weight on the bench. The closest that I think I've seen people do is 130 kilos, and that didn't actually look that good either. So there was a lot of sacrifice of technique. There was a lot of momentum used, if you will. So in a competition, you have to actually lower the bar, pause there for like a split second, and then push up. There has to be a pause at the bottom. And the people that I have seen lifting heavy on the bench, they don't pause. They just go boop, boop. So obviously, for very obvious reasons, we're not going to talk about why this is not the best thing you can do with your time. Not just from a technique standpoint, because you're not actually working on your technique properly, but from an injury-inducing standpoint. This is actually very dangerous. So dumping the weight, especially 3 plates, dumping them and then forcing them up using momentum, it's not the best thing you can do. It's not in your best interest. Let's just put it that way. Can the average guy do it? Yes. Why don't they do it? We talked about it. It's actually consistency. I don't think that people are actually in the gym consistently for long enough, for years with no end. I'm talking about like 5, 6, 7, all the way up to 20 plus years. And people don't do that. They're not in the gym consistently for that long, and they don't actually push themselves hard enough to get to that state where they can actually lift that much weight. And that's why they don't do it. I don't think it's actually as rare as people say on the internet. Although I do believe that only a few people can do this, because as I said, I've been in the gyms for so long, I've never, ever, ever seen anyone do it. So that tells a lot, doesn't it? But yeah, I think it's consistency. I think there's a lot of people out there, especially males, who can do it, but they're not training for it. They're not consistent. They might be afraid of the bar, one of the weight in general. It's just a couple of things that, all in all, they can actually add up and end up meaning that you're not going to lift 3 plates, although you're actually capable of lifting 3 plates. And the other thing that I want to touch on is like, as I said, I did hypertrophy and I was able to pull this weight, or rather press this weight. There is a difference between training for strength and training for size. Most people seem to don't understand this, and they seem to be very, very confused by the fact that there is a difference if you want to optimize for either or. There is a significant overlap between the two. So the stronger you get, the bigger you get, and the bigger you get, the stronger you get. There is overlap between strength and size. There is no question about it, but they're not the same. So when you train for strength, you're specifically training to pull or push as much weight as possible. And that means you don't isolate your muscles. You actually want as many motor units as possible to help you move the weight. That's why technique is a bit different when you're doing hypertrophy versus strength. And obviously the program structure is going to be a lot different, because strength is actually something that you have to train your neurons to actually help you with. It's not that right now I'm not capable of lifting 170 kilos on the bench, but it is the fact that my neural adaptations are not strong enough yet. So in other words, my brain can't communicate well enough to my motor units that we are now going to push really, really hard. And this is something that it's a misconception. When you do bodybuilding, you don't really care about that. You care about lifting a lot of weight and, metabolic stress and mechanical tension. That's the things that you care about. But when you're lifting for strength, when you're training for strength, you don't really care about all that. I mean, it's important to a degree, but this is not your primary focus. Your primary focus is always pushing or pulling as much weight as possible. And to do that, you need to train your neural adaptations to be good and strong enough so you can actually push that weight. There is a difference. So can you bench 3 plates by training for either of those things? Yeah, I did it. So of course you can. It is going to take more time. It took me 5 years to actually be able to push that weight. 5 years is a long time for 140 kilos, but it did take me that long. But I was always training for size. I never trained for strength, as I said. So if you are going to train for strength, you could probably do that a lot sooner than I did. And that's that. So this is going to be the video for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned something from it. Listen, if you want to do this, if you want to bench 3 plates, you have to be consistent, and ideally you might even have to train for strength specifically and not hypertrophy. It's just going to get you there quicker. It's a tool to get you there quicker. It's actually designed to do just that, make you lift as much weight as possible. But you can't do it either way, to be honest. You can't do it either way. It's down to you how you want to do it. Please share your thoughts on this video. Tell me how you find it. Tell me if this was interesting. Tell me if you want more of it down in the comments. And of course, do tell me what your current bench PR and how long it actually took you to get there. And obviously, if you have anything to share with the rest of us, any tips and tricks, anything that you learned in your journey, do let us know in the comments. But what do you think? Is it actually that rare? Because I think it is, for all the reasons that I listed. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments. And until next time, peace, and I am out.